Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Make sure you like this. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get all the information as it's coming out. It should be a big week next week. I'm going to be at the NFL Combine. So if you want to know what's going on, the insides, all of the good stuff, I will be there on site getting you all the interviews, giving you all the inside information from the Combine. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to share that stuff with you. So you're going to want to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I went live and I did a live broadcast reaction from the USFL draft, the first 12 rounds. That was quarterback to quarterback. And it was fun. It was a 4-hour. It was a 4-hour thing. I believe about 1,200 people joined me for that 4-hour trek. Not all of you stayed the entire time, but I understand. But I was there the entire time. And the one thing I came away with is I didn't mind the format. It made a lot of sense to me that they were drafting the way that they were drafting based off of the fact that they have to fill an entire roster. So if you have to fill an entire roster, it's probably going to make sense for you to make sure that for parity's sake, you give everybody an almost equal opportunity to draft players. If you just had a regular draft or where you let them draft whomever they want, you would have some teams that went heavy on one skill set or on one particular area. You have some teams that go heavy on another. And while that sounds good and that would make for some diversity in the types of teams that you had, I think what they were scared of is that it would create people who drafted better would have these giant like advantages because their team would just be really, really good on the offensive line. And so now everybody else's team not so good on the offensive line. They can't run the ball. They can't protect the quarterback. I think they wanted everything to kind of be equal going in. So I get the draft format. I don't know if that's something that you can sustain every single year. So the issue for the league is going to be, what do we do next year? Like, do we have to draft a brand new team every single year? Is that how this thing goes? Because if that is how it goes, that's going to be rough, man. Like having to draft a brand new team every single year, that's rough. Especially when you're not a developmental team for the NFL. If they were affiliated in some type of way, like as a developmental program with the NFL, or if, the NFL would allocate players, then it would make it easier because now you don't have everybody that you have to draft. You're getting players allocated to you from these other areas. But I was a little taken back because I saw so much negativity out there by people who were saying that what we don't need the draft. I mean, we don't need the USFL. Nobody's watching the USFL. No one's gonna watch. And I'm like, we already have enough football. We don't care about other football. That's why it hasn't succeeded in the past. And I just sat back and went, number one, why are you so negative on something that you don't have to consume? Like, that's the part that I don't understand. Nobody told the Christian Go-Kills that they had to consume the USFL. So if he doesn't want to consume the USFL, don't consume the USFL. He likened it to minor league baseball. Like, he believes that there's a need for a minor league, but he doesn't watch it. Okay, well, that's cool. Guess what? There are people out there that watch minor league baseball and that love it. That somebody said that with the Savannah Bananas right here in Savannah, that sell out almost every single time they're on the field. So there's a market for sports outside of the major sport. It might not be for him. It might not be for some of these national pundits that talk about how the USFL doesn't have any star power and blah, 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 blah. Okay, then it's not for you. But I want you to think about this. What constitutes success? And that's what we have to understand. The USFL doesn't have to be successful in terms of the Big Four. It doesn't have to be successful on the level of the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey. It doesn't even have to be relevant necessarily on the level of Major League Soccer. It just has to be able to draw enough people in who will support it, who will watch it, where it's viable. That's it. And if they're able to do that and they're willing to play the long game, because a lot of what happens with new sports leagues is that you don't get a chance to see year 2, 3, 4, 5. But if the USFL and the XFL, when it comes back next year, if they're in this thing for the long haul, if they can wait out all of the people who say that the product sucks because they keep trying to make it the NFL, who keep saying that they don't have stars, then guess what they're going to start doing? They're going to start getting more names that you're familiar with, because the pay structure, the way it's set up, is on par with Canada. So if you could play 10 games here as opposed to playing however many games that they play in Canada, and you're going to get paid the same amount of money, why would you go to Canada and not stay here? So not all, but a lot of the talent that we've seen from the States that have gone up to Canada to continue their careers, that talent is no longer going to go to Canada. But it takes time. Why would somebody jump on the USFL without knowing if it's sustainable, if it's viable? So the first year, you're going to have a Shea Patterson as your number 1 overall pick. You're going to have a Shea Patterson as your number 1 overall pick in the first year. You know why? Because Shea Patterson has a name that resonates in Michigan, and the Michigan team is trying to draw in fans from Michigan. So why would you not? Right? Now, the problem I saw is that there was an opportunity to be above board with everything, and the USFL missed out on that. The USFL essentially told us, hey, you don't stay out of our business. We're not going to tell you who we can actually draft. We're not going to actually show you the draft. We're not going to let you look at the people who can be drafted ahead of time so that you can ridicule or congratulate or make predictions. Well, guess what? You took all of the fun and the intrigue out of the draft. The fun and the intrigue isn't waiting for you to announce a name that we've never seen before. The intrigue is showing us the names, allowing us to then research and find out more about those prospects, making predictions on who will go where, and then watching you give us the name. You took us out of the equation. You think the draft is popular? The NFL draft is popular because of the draft? That's the most boring part. The NFL draft is popular because by the time we get to the draft, everybody that's a fan or an analyst, they get to find out if they're right or wrong. They get to find out if the front office people were thinking the same way that they were. They get to get introduced to the player that they've been coveting for 6 months, that they've been hoping for a year, that they thought their team was tanking to get. You took the fan out of the experience the way in which you did the draft, USFL, and that was a number one mistake. That was the number one mistake. I could also argue that if you're going to make quarterback your premier draft spot, it's going to be the first round. If you're going to fly them out so that they can all be in the same room and you have cameras up because we saw video footage of it, why do you not have that at least streaming somewhere for us to enjoy, for us to see? Is it because the quarterbacks that you drafted were not going to solicit much excitement? Is it because the quarterbacks that you drafted were not going to have people like going, oh my gosh, wow? Probably. And that's on you because we don't know who you have. Now imagine you came out with this quarterback list, right? You came out with this group of quarterbacks, and then you told us, hey, listen, these were the quarterbacks that were willing to come on board. We wanted other quarterbacks, but they wanted to hold out to see what their prospects were going to be with the NFL. Well, guess what? We understand that. So now we can't fault you for not going after other quarterbacks that may have been available. We can't knock you for going after those quarterbacks. We can understand why you went after the quarterbacks you went after. But tell us that. Let us know that. There's no reason to hide that. You're the new kid on the block. Not everybody's going to want to play with you. And that's fine. Year two, I would expect to see more people want to rock with you. Because if I can make $100,000 or close to $100,000 in 10 weeks, as opposed to and then have the opportunity that I might get picked up by an NFL team, then I'm going to take it. If I'm a college football player and I'm tired of the transfer portal and I'm a graduate, instead of doing a graduate transfer, I might come to the USFL instead. If I'm a sophomore and I know I have one more year to go, instead of staying in school where I'm not getting paid and I don't have any NIL deals, I might go get that $100,000 to play in the USFL for 10 weeks instead of that possible 14 to 15 game NCAA season. So there's opportunity out there for the USFL to get more premier players. Do I like some of the guys that they drafted? Absolutely. Do I think that a lot of them leave a lot to be desired? Absolutely. Do I think some of them did a good job of regionalizing their rosters? Yes. Do I think that others could have done better? Absolutely. I saw several defensive backs from Florida taken that didn't go to the Tampa Bay Bandits. And I was like, wait a minute, Tampa Bay Bandits? You had two cornerbacks that were taken that grew up in Tampa and you don't take them? What sense does that make? Drafted before them were not better. The guys that you drafted before them were either on par or, in my opinion, worse. Now I'm gonna rock with the Bandits because I'm a Tampa guy. So I'm rolling with the Bandits, but I ain't like it. And I can say the same thing for other teams, except Michigan. You could tell Michigan made it a point to get Michigan people. Michigan made it a point to get guys who either went to the University of Michigan, were from Michigan, had some affiliation to the Big Ten. They wanted to regionalize their roster, and good on them. Heck, even Birmingham went out and got a player that went to UAB. Houston got some Houston people, some Texas people. So it was everywhere. I think Philly may have gotten some regional people. So the USFL doing what they did, leaving us in the dark, not allowing us to be more part of the spectacle, of the fanfare, us getting all of this information like last minute. It felt rushed. And that's what scared me about the USFL coming back this year. I like the fact that they were back a year earlier than the XFL. I think that gave them a year jump on the XFL if they were ready. I don't know. That will remain to be seen. But I'm excited for football. And it doesn't, you don't need 20 million people to be excited for the game. You're not looking to do NFL numbers. You know what you're looking to do? You're looking to do regular sporting event on an average day numbers. If you do regular sporting event on an average day numbers, then you're viable, right? You're viable. If you do sitcom on a Wednesday night numbers, if you do those types of numbers, you're okay. A few million, that's all you need. Because a few million equates into money. As long as NBC is getting enough eyes, as long as, I forget who the other people that they're in bed with, but as long as those networks are getting enough eyes on them to be able to justify broadcasting it, then you're going to survive. Right? I think you got to do better with these uniforms. I think these uniforms are super boring, but the helmets are fire. The Bandits helmets fire. The Michigan helmet and uniform is definitely the best uniform, but they have to probably do a little bit better with uniforms. Like, you got to reach out to Nike. You got to reach out to Adidas. You got to reach out to Under Armour. You got to reach out to all of those manufacturers and say, hey, listen, we need to look fly. We don't just need to look normal or basic. But this is the process. This is how it starts. It doesn't start with 100,000, 100 million fans, because the NFL didn't start with 100 million fans. The NFL started with 3 and 4 people watching at a meat packing plant. I love how people can conveniently forget that the NFL has over almost that football's been around for almost 100 years or over 100 years. And that the NFL has been around for way longer than that. And it is only when we get into the 80s that the NFL becomes a viable popping entity. Before that, those teams are hanging on by a thread. They're not billion-dollar teams. So the USFL and the XFL, you've got work to do. It's okay. You have time. It's okay. And to the other people who are not on board, that's fine. Let them go and watch golf. Let them go and watch golf. Let them go and watch the tennis. We'll tune in because we like those sports too. Let them hope that baseball comes back. And the rest of us will be over here watching the USFL. So if you want to watch with me, that'll be great. And if you don't, I'll fill you in on what happened. No worries. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.